The night didn't arrive all at once. It unfolded slowly. The last shades of orange faded from the sky, dissolving into deep navy blue. The ocean stretched endlessly beside the road, dark and steady, breathing in long, patient rhythms. It wasn't loud. It wasn't restless. It simply existed. Far out along the coastal highway, a single car moved through the quiet. The driver had been on the road for hours. Maybe longer than he realized. His body was tired, but it was more than that. His thoughts felt heavy, crowded, like a room that hadn't been aired out in a long time. The radio crackled once, then fell into silence. His phone lost signal. One bar, then none. The screen glowed faintly before going still. The road ahead began to curve. Not sharp enough to be dangerous. Just enough to make him slow down. One bend, then another, then another. This wasn't a road meant for rushing. His headlights cut through the darkness, but the darkness didn't disappear. It simply softened around the beams, revealing only what was necessary. Nothing more. The air changed. He rolled the window down slightly and felt it immediately. Cool, salted wind drifting in from the sea. It carried the scent of water and something clean. Something open. He hadn't realized how tense he was until that moment. Then he saw it far ahead, resting near the edge of a cliff. There was a small golden light. Not bright, not flashing, just steady. A lighthouse. It didn't look famous. It didn't look dramatic. It looked quiet, almost forgotten. Yet somehow, it felt like it was meant to be there. He slowed the car without thinking. The engine hummed lower, softer. Gravel crunched under the tires as he pulled off onto a small clearing beside the road. When he turned the engine off, the silence felt deeper than he expected. No traffic, no voices, only wind, and the distant rhythm of waves below. He stepped out of the car. The gravel shifted beneath his shoes with a soft crunch. The air wrapped around him, cool but not cold, calm. A narrow path led toward the lighthouse. Tall grass lined both sides, moving gently with the breeze. Each blade seemed to sway in slow motion. He began walking. With every step, something inside him grew quieter. Not empty, just less crowded. The path wasn't straight. It curved slightly, rising and dipping as it approached the cliff. It almost felt intentional, as if the walk itself was part of the experience. As if the path was saying, "Slow down." The lighthouse door was slightly open. A warm golden glow spilled softly onto the ground outside. It didn't look abandoned. It didn't look busy either. It simply waited. He reached the door and pushed it gently. The hinges made a small sound, but even that felt muted. Like the walls absorbed it before it could echo. Inside, the air felt warmer. The faint scent of old wood and something lightly metallic filled the space. There was a small wooden table near the wall. A single chair. In the corner, an old kettle rested quietly, as if it had recently been used, though no one was there. A spiral staircase curved upward along the inside wall. Above, a soft rotating light moved slowly, casting long circular shadows that drifted across the walls. Round and round, and round, like steady breathing. He placed his foot on the first step. The wood creaked gently beneath his weight. Not sharply, not in warning. Just in acknowledgement. He climbed slowly. With each step, the outside world felt further away. The sound of the ocean grew clearer. The wind tapped softly against the glass windows higher up. Halfway up the stairs, he noticed something resting on a small wooden shelf built into the wall. A journal. It looked worn, its brown cover softened by time. The edges were slightly frayed, as if many hands had touched it over the years. It was open. He stopped. On the page, written in neat handwriting, were a few simple words. You were tired. He looked around. There was no one else there. The rotating light above continued its calm rhythm. The ocean breathed below. He read the next line. That's why you came. A strange feeling settled in his chest. Not fear, recognition. He didn't remember deciding to come here. Yet somehow, it felt true. He continued climbing until he reached the top. The lantern room was circular, surrounded by tall windows. The ocean stretched endlessly in every direction. Moonlight painted silver pathways across the surface of the water. The lighthouse beam rotated slowly, sweeping across the sea in patient arcs. There was a chair positioned near the window. He sat down. It rocked slightly, back and forth, back and forth. The movement was gentle, almost childlike. He picked up the journal again. Another line had appeared. There is no rush here. The wind brushed softly against the glass. You don't have to fix anything tonight. The light rotated again. Shadows drifted along the walls. You can simply rest. He hadn't realized how long it had been since someone, or something, gave him permission to stop. Outside, the waves moved in slow, steady patterns. They didn't crash. They rolled. The room felt warmer, now quieter. The chair continued its soft rhythm beneath him. Back and forth. His breathing matched it. Slow in, slow out. The beam of light continued its endless rotation, sweeping across the dark water as if keeping watch, not over ships, but over stillness itself. His eyes grew heavy, not in a sudden way. Gradually, like the dimming of a lamp. The final line on the page read, "Don't wait for morning." He allowed himself a small, tired smile. He looked once more at the ocean, at the moonlit horizon. Then he closed his eyes. Just for a moment, only a moment. The lighthouse kept turning. The ocean kept breathing. The night grew deeper, and somewhere within that quiet, he finally let go. The bus arrived without headlights. Not because they were broken, but because they weren't needed. The town was already glowing, softly, gently, under old street lamps that hummed with a faint golden light. It was well past midnight, though no one seemed to be in a hurry. In fact, nothing in this town ever seemed to hurry. The traveler stepped off the bus with a small bag slung over one shoulder. He wasn't sure why he had chosen this place. The ticket had simply read, "Last stop." No town name, no return time, just that. The bus doors folded shut with a quiet sigh. And then it left. Not fast, not slow, just gone. The street was empty but not abandoned. Curtains moved faintly behind upstairs windows. Somewhere in the distance, a wind chime tapped gently together. There was no sound of traffic. No buzzing signs. No phone signal. When he checked his watch, the time read 12:17 a.m. He blinked. It still read 12:17. He tapped it lightly. Still the same. Strange. But not alarming. Across the street stood a small diner with a glowing sign that simply said, "Open." He walked toward it. The bell above the door chimed softly as he stepped inside. The diner looked like it belonged to another decade. Red leather booths, a long counter, a pie display case with only one slice left inside, blueberry. Behind the counter stood an elderly woman drying a glass with slow, careful movements. She smiled when she saw him. "Long ride?" she asked gently. He nodded. "Sit anywhere. Time's not moving much tonight." He hesitated. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head slightly toward the clock above the counter. It read 12:17 a.m. The second hand moved, but when it reached the top, it returned to the same place. 12:17. Again, and again. The traveler stared at it for a moment. "You'll get used to it," she said softly. "This town rests between minutes." He sat down at the counter. The seat felt surprisingly comfortable, like it had been waiting. "What happens when it turns morning?" he asked. She smiled again, not mysterious, not secretive. "Just peaceful." "It doesn't," she said. She poured him a cup of coffee. Steam curled upward in slow spirals. The smell was warm and grounding. Outside the window, a man walked past with a dog. They weren't moving quickly. The dog wasn't pulling. They simply walked as if the night would never end. "This place," the traveler began, "is for people who forgot how to pause," the woman finished. He looked down at his hands. They weren't shaking anymore. He hadn't noticed when they stopped. The diner door chimed again. A teenage girl stepped inside holding a library book. She nodded politely and slid into a booth. "How long has she been here?" he asked quietly. The woman shrugged. "A while." The girl opened her book and began reading. Slowly, carefully, turning each page like it mattered. The coffee tasted steady, not strong, not weak, just enough. He looked back at the clock. Still 12:17. "Does anyone ever leave?" he asked. Eventually, the woman said, "When they remember how to move again. And if they don't," she placed the glass down gently, "then they rest." Outside, a soft breeze moved through the street. The lamplight flickered but didn't go out. The traveler suddenly realized something strange. He couldn't remember what he had been rushing toward before getting on the bus. A meeting, a deadline, a responsibility. It all felt distant, like a dream fading after waking. "Why does it feel so calm here?" he asked. The woman leaned slightly on the counter. "Because nothing is chasing you." The words settled deep. Nothing is chasing you. He hadn't realized how long he'd been running. The girl in the booth closed her book and stood up. She walked to the counter, placed it down, and whispered, "I'm ready." The woman nodded. The diner door opened, but instead of darkness outside, there was soft gray light, like early dawn. The girl stepped through, and she was gone. The clock flickered once. 12:18 a.m. For the first time, the traveler stared. Did she leave? She remembered, the woman replied. Remembered what? How to move forward. The coffee cup was empty now. He didn't remember finishing it. The town outside looked the same. Quiet, golden, still. But something felt different, lighter. The woman slid a small folded paper across the counter. He opened it. It read, "You can stay as long as you need. But you don't need to stay forever." He looked up. The clock ticked again. 12:19 a.m. A tiny shift. Small, but real. The diner felt warmer now. The air softer. He closed his eyes for a moment. Not to sleep, just to breathe, in and out. When he opened them again, the woman was still there. The town was still quiet. But the feeling of being chased was gone. Outside, the street lamp flickered once more. And for just a second, barely noticeable, the sky looked a shade lighter. Not morning, not yet, but closer. The bus would return someday. Not to take him away, but to remind him that time only moves when you're ready. The clock ticked again. 12:20 a.m. Slowly, gently. Time, in this town, did not run. It walked, and for the first time in a long while, so did he. The road ended without warning. Not with a gate, not with a sign, not even with a sharp turn. It simply stopped. The asphalt faded into pale desert sand, stretching outward in every direction like a quiet ocean made of dust. The traveler turned off the engine and listened. At first, there was nothing. Then, slowly, he heard it wind. Soft, steady, moving across open land without obstacles. Above him, the sky was wider than he had ever seen. There were no buildings, no trees, no power lines, just stars, thousands of them. The kind of sky that makes you feel small, but not in a frightening way. In a peaceful way. A little distance ahead stood a small gas station. It looked old, but not abandoned. 2 fuel pumps stood beneath a flat metal roof. A single bulb hung above the doorway, casting warm yellow light onto the sand below. The sign above the door read, "Open all night." There were no other cars. No sound of traffic. He stepped out, his shoes pressing gently into the cool sand. The air carried a faint scent of dry earth and distant heat, even though the night had cooled everything down. The door creaked softly when he pushed it open. Inside, the station was smaller than he expected. 3 shelves of snacks, a refrigerator humming quietly, a counter with an old-fashioned cash register. Behind the counter sat a middle-aged man reading a thick paperback book. He didn't look surprised to see anyone. He simply turned a page. "You made it," the man said calmly, without looking up. The traveler paused. "Made it where?" The man closed the book gently and set it aside. "To the quietest place between yesterday and tomorrow." The words didn't feel dramatic. They felt ordinary, as if this was something said often here. The traveler glanced at a clock hanging on the wall. It had no numbers, just 2 hands. They weren't moving. "Does it work?" he asked. The man shrugged slightly. "It doesn't need to." The refrigerator hummed. The wind brushed against the metal walls outside, making a soft hollow sound. "Are you open all night?" the traveler asked. The man smiled faintly. "There's nothing else out here." The traveler walked toward the back of the store where a small window looked out into the desert. The sand shimmered faintly under starlight. It didn't feel empty. It felt endless. "Why build a gas station here?" he asked. The man leaned back in his chair. "People run out of fuel," he said. "That's normal." The traveler looked down at his car through the window. It had enough gas. He was sure of it. "That's not what I meant," the man added gently. Silence filled the space between them. Not awkward, not heavy, just present. The traveler walked back to the counter. "How far is the next town?" The man looked toward the window, as if measuring the horizon. "Far enough that you won't reach it tonight. And if I leave now, you'll still end up back here." The words were spoken casually, but they felt true. The traveler rested his hands on the counter. The wood felt worn smooth by time. "I don't remember deciding to drive out here," he admitted. The man nodded. "Most people don't." Outside, a gust of wind moved across the sand, reshaping small dunes into new patterns. Nothing in the desert stayed exactly the same. Yet it always looked the same. The man stood up slowly and walked to a small metal door near the back wall. "You should see the roof," he said. He opened the door, revealing a narrow ladder leading upward. The traveler hesitated for only a second before climbing. The metal felt cool beneath his hands. When he reached the top, he stepped onto the flat roof of the station. The sky seemed even closer now, stars stretched in every direction, bright and steady. The Milky Way spilled across the darkness like a faint silver river. He had never seen so many stars at once. It felt like standing inside a dream. The man climbed up beside him and sat down on the edge of the roof, legs dangling casually. "No city lights," the man said quietly. "Nothing to compete with the sky." The traveler sat down too. The desert air wrapped around him. Cool, calm, wide. He felt something loosen in his chest. A tightness he hadn't noticed before. "What happens here?" he asked. "Nothing," the man replied. "And that's the point." They sat in silence for a long time. The wind moved gently across the roof. Far in the distance, a shooting star traced a brief white line across the sky before disappearing. The traveler didn't make a wish. He didn't feel the need to. "People think they're lost when they end up here," the man said after a while. "But they're not lost." "What are they?" Paused. The words settled softly. Paused. Not broken. Not behind. Not failing. Just paused. The traveler lay back against the cool metal roof and stared upward. The stars didn't rush. They didn't flicker impatiently. They simply existed, burning quietly in distant places. He wondered how long they had been there. How long they would remain. The man's voice drifted gently beside him. "The desert doesn't demand anything from you," he said. "It doesn't expect you to perform, or succeed, or hurry." The traveler closed his eyes briefly. He could hear his own breathing. Slow, even. For the first time in a long while, there was no pressure behind his thoughts. No list, no clock, no unfinished conversation replaying in his mind. Just air moving in and out. When he opened his eyes again, the sky looked even deeper somehow. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of space, of distance, of possibility. "Will morning come?" he asked softly. The man smiled at the horizon. "Eventually." "But not because you force it." The traveler nodded. Below them, the small gas station light continued glowing. A single warm square in an endless sea of sand. He realized something gently. He didn't need directions tonight. He didn't need answers. He didn't even need to know where the road would continue. He just needed this pause. The wind brushed across the desert once more, smoothing the surface of the sand. Erasing tire tracks. Erasing footprints. The traveler felt lighter, not because his problems were gone, but because they weren't chasing him here. He sat up slowly. "When do I leave?" he asked. The man stood and brushed a little dust from his hands. "When you feel ready to drive without running." They climbed back down the ladder together. Inside, the station looked the same. Still. Quiet. The clock on the wall remained motionless. But something inside him had shifted. The man handed him a small bottle of water. "For the road," he said. The traveler nodded gratefully. He stepped outside once more. The stars were still watching. The desert was still breathing. He walked to his car and paused before opening the door. For a moment, he looked back at the station. It didn't seem lonely. It seemed patient. He knew, somehow, that even if he drove away, the place would remain. Waiting for the next tired traveler. Waiting between yesterday and tomorrow. He opened the car door. Sat inside. Started the engine. This time, when he turned toward the road, he noticed something new. The asphalt didn't end anymore. It stretched forward into the night. Not rushed. Not urgent. Just open. He drove slowly. The stars remained overhead. The desert faded gently behind him. And somewhere in the quiet distance, the little gas station light continued glowing. Steady, patient, unmoved by time. The snow began before he arrived. Not suddenly, not in a storm. It fell gently, soft flakes drifting down through a pale gray sky, settling over pine trees, rooftops, and the narrow road that led deep into the forest. By the time the traveler reached the wooden cabin, the world had turned white. Not bright white, muted white, the kind that absorbs sound. He turned off the engine and listened. Nothing. No wind, no birds, no distant traffic. Even the forest seemed to be holding its breath. The cabin stood alone in a small clearing, smoke rising slowly from a metal chimney. A warm golden glow shone from the windows, steady and inviting. He didn't remember booking a cabin. He didn't remember planning this stop. Yet here he was. The wooden steps creaked softly as he climbed them. Snow crunched gently beneath his boots. Each sound felt padded, softened by the thick white blanket covering everything. He knocked once. The door opened before his hand fell back to his side. Inside stood an older man wrapped in a wool sweater, holding a lantern even though the cabin was already lit. "You found it," the man said calmly. "Found what?" the traveler asked. "The quiet you've been walking toward." The air inside smelled of cedarwood and something warm, maybe cinnamon or old books. A stone fireplace glowed along one wall, flames moving lazily, crackling in slow rhythm. The cabin was simple. One wooden table, 2 chairs, a small shelf of neatly arranged jars. A thick woven rug near the fire. No television, no radio, no ticking clock. The door closed gently behind him. Immediately, the outside world felt far away. The older man placed the lantern on the table and gestured toward the fire. "Sit," he said. The traveler removed his coat and sat on the rug near the fireplace. The heat spread slowly through his hands as he held them toward the flames. Outside the window, snow continued to fall. Endless, unhurried. "How long has it been snowing?" he asked. The man poured 2 cups of tea from a small kettle resting near the fire. Steam rose in thin curls. "It's been snowing for a while," he said. "How long is a while?" The man smiled slightly. "Long enough for everything to slow down." He handed over a cup. The ceramic felt warm, grounding. The traveler looked out the window again. The snow didn't look heavy. It looked steady, like time itself falling softly from the sky. "Does it ever stop?" he asked. "Not here," the man replied. The answer didn't feel ominous. It felt gentle, as if stopping wasn't necessary. The fire popped quietly, sending a brief spark upward before it disappeared. The traveler sipped the tea. It tasted simple, not too sweet, not too bitter. Just enough warmth to spread through his chest. He hadn't realized how cold he'd been. Not just from the weather. From rushing. From thinking. From always being slightly ahead of himself. The older man sat in the chair across from him, watching the fire rather than the traveler. "People come here when they're tired of noise," he said softly. "I didn't hear any noise," the traveler replied. The man glanced at him gently. "Not outside." Silence filled the room. But it wasn't empty. It had weight. The kind of silence that settles around you like a blanket. The traveler leaned back slightly, feeling the warmth of the fire against his face. Outside, snow gathered thicker along the window edges. The trees bowed slightly under its quiet accumulation. What happens if the snow keeps falling? He asked. The older man took a slow breath. Then the world becomes softer. The traveler watched as another layer settled onto the ground. His car was nearly half covered now. The road behind it was disappearing. He should have felt worried. But he didn't. There was something comforting about the way the snow erased sharp edges. It covered footprints. It softened rooftops. It blurred the lines between things. Even the forest looked less complicated. Just shapes. Just stillness. The man stood and walked to a small shelf, returning with a folded wool blanket. "You'll sleep better near the fire," he said, placing it gently beside him. "I didn't say I was staying," the traveler said quietly. The man nodded. "You don't have to." The firelight flickered across the wooden walls, casting long slow shadows that moved like breathing. Outside, the snow fell. Inside, the warmth deepened. The traveler realized something slowly. There was no signal here. No buzzing phone. No reminders. No deadlines creeping closer. Even time felt different. Not paused. Just quiet. "How long has this cabin been here?" he asked. The older man considered the question. "Long enough to forget when it was built." Another silence passed. This one softer than the last. The traveler wrapped the blanket loosely around his shoulders. The wool felt heavy but comforting. The fire crackled again. Outside, snow continued its patient descent. "What do people do here?" he asked eventually. "They rest," the man said simply. And then they leave lighter." The traveler closed his eyes for a moment. He could hear the faint sound of snow brushing against the roof. It wasn't loud. It was barely there. But it felt constant. Steady. Like gentle static meant to quiet the mind. When he opened his eyes again, the room seemed dimmer. Warmer. The fire had lowered into glowing embers, casting a soft orange glow instead of bright flame. The older man stood and added one more log to the fire. "Morning won't rush you here," he said. The traveler looked toward the window. The sky remained gray, blending almost seamlessly with the snow-covered ground. "Does morning come?" The man smiled faintly. "It comes when the snow feels finished." The answer made sense somehow. The traveler lay down slowly on the rug, resting his head against the folded blanket. The warmth of the fire reached him fully now. Outside, the world was nearly all white. No road visible. No tire tracks. No signs of movement. Just falling snow. He realized he couldn't remember what he had been rushing toward before this. It didn't seem important anymore. The cabin didn't feel isolated. It felt protected. The forest didn't feel empty. It felt held in place by quiet. His breathing slowed naturally, in out. The older man sat back in his chair, watching the fire. "You can stay as long as the snow falls," he said gently. The traveler didn't respond. He didn't need to. His eyes were already closing. The sound of the fire softened. The snow outside continued its endless, gentle descent. And somewhere between the warmth of the cabin and the hush of the forest, he stopped trying to move forward. Just for tonight. Just until the snow decided it was enough. Outside, the world grew softer. Inside, the quiet settled completely. And the snow kept falling. The water was perfectly still. Not frozen. Not silent. Just resting. The lake stretched wide beneath a pale silver moon, its surface smooth like dark glass. No ripples. No waves. Even the air felt careful not to disturb it. At the center of the lake floated a small wooden houseboat. Its paint was slightly faded. Its windows glowed with warm yellow light. A single lantern hung near the door, swaying almost too gently to notice. The traveler didn't remember boarding it. He only remembered the dock. An old wooden dock stretching into the lake. No signs. No ropes tying the boat down. Just quiet invitation. When he stepped onto the dock earlier, the boards had creaked softly beneath his weight. When he stepped onto the boat, it barely moved. Now, as he stood near the railing, he realized something strange. The shore was gone, not hidden by fog, gone. The lake surrounded him completely. Endless. He should have felt panic. Instead, he felt something else. Relief. Inside the small cabin, a soft light glowed from an oil lamp resting on a wooden table. The space was simple: a narrow bed, a small stove, 2 shelves with neatly stacked books. No engine noise. No motor. The boat drifted without direction. Or perhaps, it didn't need one. He stepped inside and closed the door gently behind him. The faint scent of wood and lake water filled the air. The floor creaked quietly as he walked. On the table lay a folded piece of paper. He opened it. It read, "You don't have to steer tonight." He looked around. There was no captain, no oars, no wheel. Just stillness. The lantern flickered softly as if breathing. He sat down on the edge of the bed. The mattress dipped slightly, steadying under his weight. Outside the window, the moon reflected perfectly on the water's surface. But as he watched closely, he noticed something unusual. The lake did not reflect him. He could see the moon. He could see the stars. But not himself. He moved slightly to test it. Still nothing. The water offered no mirror. Only depth. He stepped back outside onto the small deck at the front of the boat. The air felt cool but gentle against his face. The water below looked endless. Dark but not frightening. Just deep. He sat down cross-legged near the railing and listened. At first, nothing. Then, faintly, the smallest lapping sound as the boat shifted ever so slightly. The lake was not completely still. It was alive, just calm. He realized something slowly. There was no current pulling him. No visible destination ahead. Yet the boat continued drifting at a pace too subtle to measure. He closed his eyes. He had spent so long steering, making decisions, correcting mistakes, turning wheels, pushing forward. Tonight, there was no wheel to hold. No map to follow. Only water beneath him. When he opened his eyes again, the sky looked different. The stars appeared brighter. Closer somehow. As if the lake had carried him nearer to them. The lantern behind him cast a soft golden glow onto the deck. "You don't have to reflect here," a voice said gently. He turned quickly. An older woman stood inside the doorway of the cabin. She hadn't been there before. Her expression was calm, almost familiar. "Who are you?" he asked. "Just someone who rows when rowing is needed," she replied softly. "But tonight, it isn't." He looked back at the water. "It doesn't show me," he said quietly. She nodded. "That's why it's peaceful." He didn't fully understand. She stepped out onto the deck and sat beside him. Most places show you your reflection, she continued. They show you who you were, what you regret, what you should fix. She gestured gently toward the dark surface of the lake. This lake doesn't do that. The traveler watched the moon shimmer across the water. No reflection of his tired face. No reminder of unfinished things. Just sky. And where does it take people? He asked. Nowhere urgent, she said. The boat shifted slightly again, turning almost imperceptibly. He looked around. There was still no sign of land. Do people ever get lost here? She smiled softly. You can't get lost when you're not trying to arrive. The words settled into him slowly. He leaned back against the railing, feeling the cool wood against his shoulders. The lake's quiet seemed deeper now, not empty, but protective. He suddenly realized something else. He couldn't remember what he had been trying to prove before this. To himself, to others, it all felt distant, like noise fading after a long day. The woman stood and walked back inside the cabin. Rest, she said gently. The lake will hold you. He hesitated only a moment before following her inside. The oil lamp glowed warmly, casting soft shadows across the wooden walls. The small stove radiated faint heat. The bed looked more inviting now. He lay down slowly, listening. The gentle sound of water touching wood. The faint creak of boards adjusting. The distant whisper of wind brushing across open space. The woman sat quietly at the table, reading a small book by lantern light. She didn't look at him. She didn't need to. Will morning come? He asked softly, eyes half closed. Eventually, she replied, but not in a way that rushes you. He watched the lantern flame flicker. Outside the window, the stars seemed endless. The lake continued drifting, not forward, not backward. Just present. His breathing slowed naturally, in out. The boat rocked once, gently, as if acknowledging his weight, settling fully into rest. He thought about the dock he had stepped from. About the land that had disappeared. About the absence of reflection. For once, he wasn't measuring himself against anything. Not time, not progress, not expectation. Just floating. The last thing he heard before sleep began to take him was the faint sound of water against wood. Steady, calm, patient. Outside, the lake stretched endlessly under moonlight. Inside, the lantern burned low, and the houseboat continued drifting, without a destination, without urgency, without the need to be anywhere else. The announcement never came. There was no final boarding call. No echoing voice over the speakers. No rush of footsteps across polished floors. The airport was awake. But it was not busy. Soft overhead lights glowed against wide, empty corridors. Large windows revealed a dark runway stretching into the night, faint blue lights lining its edges like distant stars fallen to earth. The traveler stood just inside the sliding glass doors. They had opened automatically when he approached. He didn't remember parking. He didn't remember checking in. He only remembered feeling tired. The kind of tired that sleep alone doesn't fix. Inside, rows of seats stretched across the terminal. All empty. A departure board flickered quietly near the ceiling. He looked up at it. Every destination listed the same word. Delayed. No times. No gate numbers. Just delayed. He didn't feel frustration, only curiosity. His footsteps echoed softly as he walked toward the center of the terminal. The sound was gentle, almost rhythmic against the polished floor. A coffee stand stood open near gate 12. A small lamp glowed behind the counter. An older woman stood there, wiping the surface slowly with a cloth. She didn't look surprised to see him. Long trip? She asked kindly. I think so, he replied. She nodded, as if that answer was enough. Coffee? He hesitated. Is there a flight leaving? She glanced at the departure board without turning her head. Not tonight. Why? She smiled faintly. Because no one here needs to go anywhere. He stepped closer to the counter. The scent of fresh coffee filled the air, warm and grounding. The airport felt different from any he had known. No rolling suitcases. No hurried conversations. No overhead alarms. Just space. Wide, open space. He took the cup she offered and wrapped his hands around it. The warmth spread slowly through his fingers. What happens if someone tries to leave? He asked. She gestured gently toward the windows. He walked over and looked outside. The planes were there, lined up quietly near the gates. But their engines were dark. Their cabin lights dim. They didn't look abandoned. They looked resting. He noticed something else. There were no workers on the runway. No fuel trucks. No flashing lights. The entire airport felt paused between breaths. He returned to the counter. Is this some kind of delay because of weather? She shook her head slowly. The weather is fine. He glanced outside again. The sky above the runway was clear. Stars faintly visible beyond thin drifting clouds. Then what are we waiting for? The woman leaned slightly against the counter. For you to stop trying to arrive. The words were not sharp. They were soft. But they landed gently. He thought about all the arrivals he had rushed toward in life. Meetings, milestones, expectations, always moving towards something. Always planning the next gate. He looked at the departure board again. Delayed. Everywhere. He realized something slowly. For the first time, no one was expecting him somewhere else. No one was waiting at another terminal. The pressure to move forward had disappeared. He walked toward one of the large windows and sat in an empty seat facing the runway. The glass reflected the faint outline of his figure, but it was blurred, softened by the low lighting. He didn't look tired. He looked still. A soft instrumental melody began playing through hidden speakers above. Not loud, just enough to fill the silence without breaking it. The woman from the coffee stand approached and sat in the seat beside him. Do the flights ever leave? He asked. Eventually, she said, but only when passengers remember they're not being chased. The runway lights blinked gently in the distance. Blue. White. Blue again. Steady. He noticed the air inside the terminal felt perfectly balanced. Not too cool. Not too warm. The seats were softer than airport seats usually are. comfortable, inviting. "What if I don't board?" he asked quietly. She smiled. "Then you sit." They remained there in silence for a while. The quiet didn't feel empty anymore. It felt protective, as if the airport existed outside of time zones. No jet lag, no connecting flights, no countdown clocks ticking away seconds. He checked his watch. The time hadn't changed, not frozen, just unimportant. He leaned his head back against the seat and closed his eyes briefly. He could almost imagine the sound of an engine starting. But it didn't happen. Instead, there was only the steady hum of the building itself. A soft, grounding vibration. He realized something gently. He didn't want to board tonight. He didn't want to arrive anywhere. He wanted to stay between departures and arrivals. Between expectation and outcome. The woman stood up slowly. "There's a quiet lounge near gate 3, she said. "No televisions. No announcements." He nodded and stood. They walked together down the wide corridor. Their footsteps echoed softly, but even the echo felt muted, absorbed by high ceilings and open space. At gate 3, there was no aircraft connected. Just an open doorway leading into a smaller room. Inside were reclining chairs facing a massive window overlooking the runway. Dim lights, soft carpeting, blankets folded neatly along one wall. "You can rest here," she said. He stepped inside. The air felt even calmer in this room. The runway lights outside continued their steady blinking. He chose a chair near the window and leaned back. The seat adjusted smoothly beneath him. The woman placed a light blanket over the armrest and gave a small nod before leaving quietly. No announcements followed. No last calls. No urgency. Just the open runway stretching into darkness. He watched for a while, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did, and slowly, he understood. Nothing needed to. His breathing deepened. In out. The blinking runway lights seemed slower now, or maybe he was. The airport continued existing around him, steady, patient, unrushed. Not a place of departure. Not a place of arrival. But a place of pause. His eyes grew heavier. Not from exhaustion. From relief. For once, he didn't have to catch anything. Didn't have to move. Didn't have to board. The last thing he saw before sleep settled gently over him was the quiet runway stretching into the night. Ready, but not calling him. And somewhere in the still terminal, time waited politely. Without pressure. Without countdown. Without demand. The road up the mountain was barely visible. Not because it was broken. Not because it was dangerous. But because it disappeared into clouds. Thick, silver-gray clouds that wrapped around the mountain like a quiet secret. The traveler drove slowly, headlights glowing softly against the mist. The world beyond the windshield looked blurred, softened, like a memory that hadn't fully formed yet. He didn't remember deciding to climb the mountain. He only remembered looking for higher ground. Somewhere above the noise. Somewhere above the weight. As he reached the summit, the clouds thinned. He broke through them. The sky above was perfectly clear, dark, endless, filled with stars so bright they felt close enough to touch. At the very top of the mountain stood a round stone building with a silver dome. Soft white light glowed from inside. An observatory. It looked old, but carefully kept. The dome above was slightly open, revealing a massive telescope pointing toward the sky. He parked near the entrance. This time, he felt no confusion about how he arrived. He had come here on purpose. The heavy wooden door opened easily when he pushed it inside. The air was warm but thin, carrying the faint scent of metal and polished wood. A spiral staircase led upward toward the telescope room. The sound inside was almost sacred. Not silent, but hushed. Like the building understood it was surrounded by something vast. At the top, beneath the open dome, stood a tall woman with silver hair tied neatly behind her head. She adjusted a dial on the telescope without turning around. "You're right on time," she said softly. "For what?" he asked. "For looking up." Her voice carried no urgency, only patience. He stepped closer to the telescope. The opening in the dome revealed a sky unlike any he had seen before. Without city lights, without haze, the Milky Way stretched boldly across the darkness, a river of distant light. "Have you ever really looked at the sky?" she asked. He hesitated. "I've seen it," she smiled faintly. "That's different." She stepped aside and gestured for him to look through the telescope. He leaned forward carefully. At first, he saw darkness. Then slowly, a cluster of stars sharpened into focus. Bright, clear, ancient. They didn't flicker nervously. They burned steadily, confidently, as if they had nothing to prove. "What am I looking at?" he whispered. "Light that began traveling before you were born," she said. He stayed there for a long moment. The thought didn't make him feel small. It made him feel unhurried. The stars weren't racing. They weren't trying to arrive faster. They simply existed. He stepped back slowly. The woman adjusted the telescope slightly. "People come here when they feel behind," she said. "Behind what?" "Everything." He let out a quiet breath. He hadn't realized how often he measured himself against time, against others, against expectations that never seemed to pause. The woman moved toward a large circular window overlooking the clouds below. He followed. Below the mountain, the clouds stretched endlessly like a soft white ocean. The world beneath them was invisible. From up here, there were no cities, no traffic, no deadlines, just sky above, clouds below. "You can't rush the stars," she said gently. "They don't shine brighter because someone demands it." He leaned lightly against the stone wall. The air felt cooler near the open dome. "What happens here?" he asked quietly. She folded her hands calmly. People remember scale. He looked back up at the sky. Scale. The word echoed softly inside him. The things that felt overwhelming before suddenly seemed smaller when placed beside galaxies. Not unimportant, just not urgent. A soft wind drifted through the dome opening, brushing gently across the room. The telescope shifted slightly with a faint mechanical hum. "Does anyone stay here?" he asked. "Only until they stop trying to compete with time," she replied. He walked slowly around the circular room. There were old star maps hanging on the walls. Constellations drawn in careful ink. Notes written in small handwriting beside them. None of them were marked with deadlines. Only dates. Moments observed. Moments recorded. He returned to the center of the room and sat on a small wooden bench. The woman dimmed the interior lights slightly. The stars above grew even more vivid. For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence felt elevated, not empty, not lonely, just vast. He closed his eyes briefly. He imagined all the light traveling silently across space for millions of years, never rushing, never stopping, simply moving at its own steady pace. He opened his eyes again. The stars were still there. Patient. Steady. He felt something loosen inside him. The constant sense of being late. The quiet fear of falling behind. Up here, there was no ahead or behind. Only distance. Only time unfolding naturally. "Will morning reach this place?" he asked softly. "Yes," she said, but slowly. He walked toward the open edge of the dome and looked out at the horizon. The faintest hint of pale blue was forming at the farthest edge of the sky. Not sunrise yet. Just a suggestion. The woman placed a small blanket around his shoulders without saying anything. "You don't have to stay awake to appreciate it," she said gently. He nodded. He lay back carefully on the bench, looking up at the opening above. The stars didn't demand his attention. They simply existed. His breathing slowed. In out. The mountain remained still beneath him. The clouds rested below. The observatory stood quiet, holding its place between earth and sky. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like he needed to catch up to anything. He didn't need to shine brighter. Didn't need to move faster. He only needed to exist. The last thing he saw before his eyes closed was a single bright star near the edge of the dome. Steady, unrushed, uncompeting, and somewhere above the clouds, the sky continued whispering. Not loudly, just enough. The street was empty when he found it, not deserted, not abandoned, just quiet in the way cities sometimes become after midnight, when the traffic fades and the buildings seem to exhale. A faint golden glow spilled onto the sidewalk from a narrow shop tucked between two taller buildings. The sign above the door read, "Open after hours." There were no posted times. No business hours. Just that simple promise. The traveler stood for a moment, unsure why he felt drawn to it. He hadn't been looking for a bookstore. He hadn't even been looking for a place to stop. But the light felt warm, inviting. The door opened with a soft chime as he stepped inside. The air smelled like paper and polished wood. Old pages, fresh ink, a hint of vanilla and dust, comforting, familiar. Rows of tall wooden shelves stretched farther than the outside of the building suggested was possible. The space felt larger on the inside. Quieter, too. A single lamp glowed on a wooden desk near the center of the room. Behind it sat a middle-aged man wearing round glasses, carefully stacking a small pile of books. He didn't look up immediately. When he finally did, he smiled gently. "You're right on time," he said. The traveler blinked. "What time is it?" The man glanced at a small clock on the wall. It had no numbers, just moving hands. "It's the hour when stories choose," he replied. The traveler stepped farther inside. The wooden floor creaked softly beneath his shoes. There were no loud noises, no music playing, only the faint sound of pages turning somewhere deeper in the shop, though he saw no one else. "Are you still open?" he asked. The man nodded. "We're always open for the right reader." The words felt gentle, not mysterious. The traveler walked toward the nearest shelf. The books were arranged without obvious categories. No signs labeled fiction or history. No alphabetical order. He ran his fingers lightly along the spines. They felt warm. Not physically warm, but familiar. Comforting. He paused at a small blue book resting slightly apart from the others. It didn't have a title on the spine. He pulled it free. The cover was blank. He opened it slowly. The first page read, "You have been tired for a long time." He closed it quickly. His heart didn't race, but something inside him shifted. He turned around. "How did this get here?" he asked quietly. The bookseller adjusted his glasses. "It's been waiting. For me. For whoever needed it." The traveler looked back down at the book. He turned the page. The next line read, "You don't have to carry every chapter with you." He swallowed gently. The store felt even quieter now, not tense, just attentive. He walked toward a reading chair near the back of the shop and sat down. The cushion sank slightly beneath him. A small lamp beside the chair flickered on by itself, casting soft golden light over the pages. Outside the shop windows, the street remained empty. Inside, time felt stretched. Unhurried, he turned another page. Some stories are meant to be set down. The words were simple, but they felt personal. He thought about the chapters of his life he kept rereading. Mistakes, missed opportunities, conversations replayed too many times. He had been carrying them like bookmarks he never removed. A soft sound echoed from another aisle, the quiet slide of a book returning to a shelf. He looked up, still no one else visible. "Do the books write themselves?" he asked. The bookseller smiled. No. Then who writes them? You do. The traveler frowned slightly. I didn't write this. Not with your hands, the man replied calmly. He looked back at the page. The words hadn't changed, but they felt lighter somehow. He turned another page. Rest between paragraphs. He leaned back in the chair. The lamp beside him glowed steadily. The bookstore felt like it was breathing. Shelves rising and falling in slow rhythm. He realized something gently. There were no mirrors in this shop. No reflections in the windows. Just books. Stories. Possibilities. He closed the book halfway and looked around again. What happens if I finish it? He asked. The bookseller folded his hands. Then it closes. And then, another one waits. The traveler looked at the countless shelves stretching into soft shadows. So they never end. The man shook his head slowly. Stories don't rush to finish. He opened the book again. The final page simply read, "You are allowed to turn the page." He stared at the sentence for a long time. The words didn't push him. They didn't demand anything. They simply offered permission. He closed the book gently. As soon as the cover touched the back page, the blank front filled with a title in soft silver letters. The Night You Chose to Rest. He exhaled slowly. The bookstore felt warmer now, more complete. He carried the book back toward the desk. Do I keep it? He asked quietly. The bookseller smiled. It's already yours. He placed it gently into a small cloth bag and handed it across the counter. There's no charge, he added. Outside, the faintest hint of early morning gray began touching the edges of the sky. The traveler walked toward the door, the bag resting lightly in his hand. He paused before stepping outside. Will this place still be here tomorrow night? He asked. The bookseller looked around the quiet shop. If you need it. The door chimed softly as he stepped back onto the sidewalk. The street looked slightly brighter now, not fully morning. Just softer. He glanced down at the bag in his hand. It felt light, not heavy like the chapters he used to carry. Behind him, the bookstore window glowed warmly for one more moment. Then the light dimmed, not disappearing. Just resting. And as he walked slowly down the quiet street, he realized something new. He didn't need to reread old pages tonight. He didn't need to rewrite anything. He only needed to close the cover and rest between chapters. The platform was empty when he arrived. Not abandoned, not broken, just quiet in the way places become when they are no longer rushed. A single lantern hung from a curved iron post, casting warm light across the wooden boards of the station. Beyond it, railway tracks stretched into soft darkness. There was no digital board, no loudspeaker, no departure time, only a simple wooden sign that read, "Next arrival, when ready." The traveler stood still for a moment, unsure what that meant. He hadn't bought a ticket. He hadn't checked a schedule. Yet he knew he was meant to be there. Far in the distance, he heard it, not a sharp whistle, not the roar of an engine, just the low, steady hum of something approaching slowly. A train emerged from the darkness. It wasn't modern. Its body was polished silver with wide windows glowing softly from within. Steam drifted gently around its wheels, not in thick clouds, but in quiet breaths. It came to a stop without screeching brakes. The doors slid open smoothly. No conductor called out. No passengers rushed off. The traveler stepped forward and climbed aboard. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Inside, the carriage was warmly lit. Rows of cushioned seats faced large windows. Wooden trim lined the walls. Small reading lamps glowed gently above each seat. There were only a few other passengers. A woman knitting slowly near the front. An elderly man gazing calmly out the window. A child asleep against a window, breathing softly. No one looked anxious. No one checked a watch. The train began to move. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. The traveler chose a seat near the middle and sat down. The cushion adjusted comfortably beneath him. Outside the window, darkness shifted into something else. Green fields stretched wide beneath a pale blue sky. Spring. He blinked. Moments ago, it had been night. Now, sunlight filtered softly across rolling hills dotted with wildflowers. The train did not speed up. It glided gently through the scene as if passing through a memory. He leaned closer to the glass. The fields looked familiar, not specific, just familiar in the way peaceful days sometimes feel. The woman knitting smiled faintly without looking up. First time, she asked gently. He nodded. Where does this train go? She paused her knitting and glanced out the window. It moves through what you've forgotten. He frowned slightly. What does that mean? She resumed her slow rhythm. You'll see. The scenery shifted gradually. The green fields softened into golden leaves falling from tall trees. Autumn. The air outside looked crisp. Leaves drifted lazily across the ground as the train passed through forests glowing in warm shades of amber and red. He felt something stir inside him. A memory of walking through leaves once. A quiet afternoon. No phone in hand. No destination in mind. Just walking. The train continued forward. No announcements. No conductor checking tickets. Only motion. The elderly man across the aisle turned slightly toward him. You don't need a ticket, he said kindly. The traveler hesitated. I didn't buy one. The man smiled. You already paid. With time. The words didn't feel heavy. They felt comforting. Outside, autumn slowly faded into white. Snow covered the ground. Winter. The train moved through a quiet forest blanketed in soft snow. No harsh winds. No storm. Just gentle snowfall drifting downward. The world looked muted, peaceful. He noticed something. The train did not leave tracks behind it. The snow remained untouched once they passed, as if nothing had disturbed it. "Does it stop anywhere?" he asked softly. The elderly man shook his head. "It stops when you do." The traveler leaned back in his seat. The carriage felt warmer now. Safer. Outside, winter gradually melted into soft pink blossoms lining quiet pathways. Spring again, but different, brighter, more alive. The child near the window stirred gently but did not wake. The woman's knitting needles clicked softly in rhythm. The sound blended with the steady hum of the train. No rush. No pressure, just movement through time without resistance. He realized something slowly. These weren't specific places. They were feelings, moments he had rushed past, seasons he had lived through but never paused to notice. Summer sunlight began pouring across wide golden fields. The sky stretched open and endless. He remembered warmth on his skin once. Laughter carried on warm air. Evenings that lingered long after the sun dipped low. He hadn't thought about those in years. The train continued. Through seasons. Through quiet transitions. Through forgotten calm. "Why bring me here?" he asked. The woman paused her knitting again. "So you remember that time moves gently when you let it." He looked out the window once more. The seasons began blending together now, green, gold, white, pink, flowing softly into one another without sharp edges. He felt lighter. Not because the past had changed, but because he wasn't chasing it anymore. The train slowed slightly, not to stop, just enough to feel the shift. The elderly man stood carefully. "This is where I rest," he said kindly. The door at the end of the carriage opened quietly. Beyond it was not a station, not a platform, just soft light. He stepped through. The door closed gently behind him. The train continued moving. The traveler felt no fear, only calm curiosity. The woman gathered her yarn slowly. "Your stop isn't a place," she said gently. "It's a feeling." The train began slowing once more. Outside, the seasons faded into soft twilight. Not night, not day, just a peaceful in-between. The train came to a quiet halt. No jolt, no sound of brakes. The doors opened. He looked outside. There was no platform. Only a wide open meadow under a soft fading sky. He stood slowly. "Is this it?" he asked. The woman nodded. "You're ready to move through your days without racing them." He stepped off the train. The grass beneath his shoes felt real. Soft. Grounded. When he turned around, the train doors had already closed. It began moving again, silently, disappearing into the distance without leaving tracks. The meadow stretched quietly around him. The air felt balanced, even, unhurried. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel behind. He didn't feel ahead. He just felt present. The sky above slowly deepened into night. Stars began appearing one by one. And somewhere far away, the quiet train continued moving. Through forgotten seasons. Through gentle time. Waiting for the next passenger who needed to remember how slowly life can move. The island did not appear on most maps. It wasn't hidden. It just wasn't necessary to find. A narrow stretch of sand curved around smooth gray rocks, and at the highest point stood a small white lighthouse with a rounded glass top. Its paint was slightly worn. Its door was wooden and sun-bleached. It had stood there longer than anyone could remember. Inside lived the keeper. No one knew exactly when he had arrived. He simply had always been there. Every evening, just before dusk, he climbed the spiral stairs. Step by step. Slowly, not because he was tired, but because there was no reason to hurry. At the top, he polished the wide glass windows that surrounded the lantern room. He checked the brass fittings. He wound the old mechanism carefully. And just as the sun touched the horizon, the lighthouse began to glow. Not a harsh beam, not a blinding light, just a warm, steady radiance that swept gently across the water. The sea around the island was usually calm. Soft waves. Quiet tides. Fishing boats passed occasionally, their crews waving as they sailed beyond the reef. But this evening felt different. The air was heavier, the horizon darker. Clouds gathered slowly in thick layers far out at sea. The keeper noticed, of course. He always noticed. He didn't panic. He didn't rush. Storms were part of the ocean's breathing. They came. They passed. He finished polishing the glass and looked outward. Far beyond the reef, a small boat moved unsteadily. Its sail trembled against the rising wind. The storm would reach it long before morning. The keeper adjusted the lantern slightly. The beam widened. It stretched farther across the darkening water. Below, waves began tapping harder against the rocks. Wind curled around the tower, low at first, then deeper. The storm was coming, but the lighthouse did not flicker. It never did. The keeper descended the spiral stairs and stepped outside. The first drops of rain fell lightly across the sand. He walked to the edge of the island and stood facing the sea. The small boat was closer now, rocking unevenly. The sail flapped sharply. Thunder rumbled far away. He raised one hand, not to command the storm, not to stop it, but to steady himself. The wind picked up, rain fell heavier. The sky turned a deep shade of slate gray. Lightning flickered across distant clouds. Still, the lighthouse beam moved steadily across the waves. Left, right, left again, guiding, constant. The keeper returned inside as the storm reached its full voice. Waves crashed against the rocks, sending white spray high into the air. Rain lashed against the glass at the top of the tower. Wind howled through narrow gaps in the stone. But inside the lantern room, it remained calm. The mechanism ticked softly. The light continued its steady rotation. Through sheets of rain, the small boat adjusted its course. Slowly, carefully, it followed the beam. Not quickly, not perfectly, but steadily. The keeper watched without tension. Storms were loud, but they were temporary. Light, when kept steady, was patient. Minutes passed, or perhaps hours. Time moved differently during storms. Eventually, the boat reached the shelter of the reef. The waves softened slightly. The sail lowered. The vessel drifted into safer water. The keeper allowed himself a small nod, not pride, just acknowledgement. The storm continued for a while longer. Thunder rolled. Rain poured. The sea roared against stone. But little by little, the wind eased. The lightning moved farther away. The rain softened into mist. Clouds thinned. The lighthouse beam continued sweeping across calmer waters now. Left, right, left again. The keeper descended the stairs once more and stepped outside. The sand was wet and cool beneath his boots. The air smelled clean. The sea exhaled slowly, returning to its gentle rhythm. In the distance, the small boat floated peacefully beyond the reef. Safe. The keeper looked at the horizon where the storm had vanished. He knew another would come someday. Storms always do, but he also knew something else. The lighthouse did not exist to stop storms. It existed to remain steady while they passed. He climbed the spiral stairs one last time that night and dimmed the lantern slightly as the sky cleared. Stars appeared between thinning clouds. The sea reflected them in quiet ripples. The island grew still again. The keeper sat beside the lantern room window and listened to the softened waves. No urgency, no fear, just the steady understanding that storms are loud. But they do not last forever. And somewhere out on the water, boats continue moving. Guided not by panic, but by quiet, patient light. Far below the surface of the sea, beyond coral gardens and slow-moving schools of silver fish, there stood a library. It was not sunken. It had not fallen from the land above. It had always been there. The building rested on the ocean floor as gently as a shell placed in sand. Its walls were smooth stone, curved slightly like the inside of a wave. Tall arched windows faced outward into blue water, where light filtered down in soft shifting patterns. Inside, the shelves rose in wide spirals instead of straight lines. They curved upward around a central open space, climbing slowly toward a domed ceiling made of thick glass. Through the glass above, the surface of the ocean shimmered faintly, distant, quiet, unreachable. The librarian moved carefully between the shelves. No one knew how long she had lived there. Her steps were unhurried, her hands gentle. She wore simple clothing the color of pale sand, and her hair drifted slightly as if moved by invisible currents, though the water never entered the building. The library was dry, warm, still. Each book inside held something unusual. Not stories that had been written, but stories that had been felt. Moments, memories, emotions that people above had experienced but never fully understood. Whenever someone on the surface felt something deeply, joy, grief, wonder, forgiveness, a new book quietly appeared on an empty shelf below the sea. No splash, no announcement, just a soft presence where there had been space before. The librarian paused beside a newly formed book resting on a low shelf. Its cover shimmered faintly, the color of early morning light. She lifted it carefully and opened to the first page. The text inside was not written in ink. It moved gently across the page like flowing water. A memory of someone standing at the edge of a lake at sunrise. Not thinking, not worrying, just breathing. The librarian smiled softly. She closed the book and placed it in its proper place within the spiral. Outside the windows, a large sea turtle drifted past slowly, its movements calm and steady. Small fish flickered like silver sparks in the filtered light. Nothing hurried, nothing demanded attention. A faint vibration moved through the water above. A storm, perhaps. The surface world was often restless. Waves crashed, winds rose, rain fell, but deep below, the library remained steady. When emotions above became overwhelming, when someone felt lost, or uncertain, or unsure how to carry what they felt, the weight of that feeling gently descended. Not as pressure, but as a book. The librarian walked toward a quiet reading table near the center of the room. There were no chairs, only wide cushions arranged in a circle. Occasionally, a visitor arrived. Not by swimming, not by diving, but by dreaming. When someone above fell into a deep and honest sleep, their thoughts sometimes drifted downward like falling sand. If they were ready, they would find themselves standing inside the library. Tonight, a visitor appeared. A young traveler blinked softly, adjusting to the quiet blue light that filtered through the windows. They did not seem frightened, only curious. "Where am I?" the traveler asked quietly. The librarian approached with a gentle nod, in the place where feelings are given room to breathe. The traveler looked around at the spiraling shelves. "Are these stories?" "Yes," the librarian said. "But not the kind you read to escape." She reached for a nearby book and placed it in the traveler's hands. The cover was deep green, like moss after rain. The traveler opened it slowly. Inside was a memory, a difficult conversation once avoided, words that had been held back, silence that had grown heavy. But as the pages turned, the memory shifted. The fear softened. The understanding beneath it became clearer. The traveler felt something loosen in their chest. "I remember this," they whispered. The librarian nodded. Some feelings need distance before they make sense. Outside, a gentle current moved across the ocean floor, lifting sand in slow swirling patterns. Light shimmered softly across the dome ceiling above. The traveler turned another page. Now there was laughter. An ordinary afternoon. Nothing extraordinary. Yet it felt warm, full. I forgot this, the traveler said quietly. You didn't forget, the librarian replied. You simply stored it where it would be safe. The traveler closed the book gently. The room felt lighter somehow. The shelves seemed less overwhelming. Do I stay here? They asked. The librarian shook her head. No one stays. You only visit when you need to remember that your feelings are not storms to survive. She gestured toward the tall windows where fish drifted peacefully past. They are tides. The traveler stood quietly, breathing slowly. The blue light felt calming. The silence felt kind. Gradually, the edges of the room softened. The spiral shelves blurred gently. The dome ceiling shimmered. The traveler's form became lighter, as though made of mist. You'll return when you need to, the librarian said softly. And with that, the traveler drifted upward, back through layers of water, back toward the surface, back into their sleeping body. The library remained steady, silent. Another book appeared on a shelf. Its cover shimmered faintly, the color of deep ocean blue. The librarian walked toward it and smiled. Above the sea, waves moved gently beneath the moon. Below, the pages turned like tides. And in the quiet library beneath the ocean, every feeling waited patiently, until it was ready to be understood. Far beyond the last paved road, beyond the final flicker of city lights, there stretched a wide and silent desert. During the day, it shimmered with heat. But at night, it became something else entirely. Cool, silver, endless. At the highest dune stood a small observatory made of pale stone. Its dome roof was smooth and rounded, with a narrow slit that opened toward the sky. There were no fences, no signs, no pathways marked by footprints. Only sand, shaped gently by wind. Inside the observatory lived an old astronomer. No one knew exactly how old he was. He measured time differently, not in years, but in constellations. Every evening, just after the sun slipped below the horizon, he climbed a short wooden ladder to open the dome. The roof parted slowly, revealing a sky so clear it almost felt close enough to touch. Stars appeared one by one. Not all at once. Never in a hurry. The astronomer adjusted his telescope carefully. He never rushed the alignment. The sky would not move faster just because he did. He believed the stars preferred patience. The desert wind moved softly outside, tracing delicate patterns across the dunes. It made no harsh sounds. Only a low whisper that blended with the quiet hum of night. Tonight, the sky seemed especially deep, layered, infinite. The astronomer leaned over his notebook. He did not write complex equations anymore. Instead, he recorded feelings. Sky calm, he wrote. Wind gentle. Stars steady. He turned the telescope slightly. In the lens, a distant galaxy shimmered faintly, a soft swirl of light that had begun its journey long before the observatory had ever been built. He smiled. There was something comforting about light that traveled so far without complaint. Outside, the temperature dropped gently. The sand cooled. The air grew clearer. Far across the desert, a traveler walked alone. Not lost. Just thinking. The traveler had been moving for hours, guided only by the moon and a quiet need for space. The world had felt loud lately. Too many voices. Too many expectations. Out here, there was only breath and footsteps. And the sky. The traveler noticed the observatory light, faint, warm, steady against the cool blue night. It did not flash. It did not demand attention. It simply existed. Curious, the traveler approached slowly. The astronomer heard the soft crunch of sand outside but did not seem surprised. Visitors sometimes arrived when the night felt heavy on their shoulders. He opened the small wooden door. "Good evening," he said gently. The traveler nodded. "I saw your light. That's usually how it begins," the astronomer replied. Inside, the observatory felt simple. A telescope, a desk, a lantern glowing softly. Shelves holding notebooks filled with quiet observations. No clocks ticked. No machines beeped. Only stillness. "Would you like to see something far away?" the astronomer asked. The traveler hesitated, then stepped forward. Looking through the telescope, they expected something dramatic. Exploding stars. Brilliant color. Movement. Instead, they saw something soft. A distant cluster of stars glowing faintly together. Small. Steady. "They look calm," the traveler said. "They are," the astronomer answered. "They have no reason to rush." The traveler pulled back slightly. "I feel like everything on Earth is always rushing." The astronomer nodded knowingly. "Up there," he said, pointing gently toward the sky, "light takes millions of years to arrive. It does not worry about being late." The traveler looked again through the telescope. The stars did not flicker nervously. They did not compete. They simply shone. Outside, the wind shifted softly, smoothing the dunes once more. Any footprints left behind were slowly erased. Nothing in the desert clung too tightly to the past. "Why build an observatory out here?" the traveler asked. The astronomer adjusted the lens slightly. "Because the desert listens," he said. "Cities reflect noise back at you. The desert lets it drift away." The traveler sat quietly on a small stool. For a while, neither of them spoke. The sky deepened further into indigo. More stars appeared, filling spaces that had seemed empty before. "You don't try to name them?" the traveler asked. "I used to," the astronomer admitted. "Now I prefer to let them remain what they are." The traveler closed their eyes briefly. The silence did not feel empty anymore. It felt spacious. Breath slowed. Shoulders softened. "Do the stars ever fall?" the traveler asked sleepily. "Sometimes," the astronomer said with a faint smile. "But even falling stars are only passing reminders that motion can be gentle." A meteor traced a thin silver line across the sky at that very moment. Gone in seconds. But peaceful. The lantern inside the observatory glowed steadily. The telescope remained pointed upward. Eventually, the traveler felt their thoughts quieting completely. Not solved. Not answered. Just quieter. "I think I should rest," they murmured. The astronomer nodded. "There is space here," he said, gesturing toward a folded blanket near the wall. The traveler lay down beneath the open dome. Above them, the stars continued their patient shining. No urgency, no expectation, just light traveling at its own pace. The astronomer returned to his notebook. "Visitor calmer," he wrote softly. "Sky unchanged. Night kind." Hours passed gently. Near dawn, the faintest gray light touched the horizon. The stars began to fade, not abruptly, but gradually, like a whisper growing softer. The traveler stirred, feeling lighter somehow. Outside, the desert waited peacefully for morning. The astronomer closed the dome slowly as the first hint of sunlight warmed the sand. Another night recorded. Another quiet heart steadied beneath the stars. And high above the sleeping desert, the sky remained vast and patient, always whispering slowly to those willing to listen. At the far edge of a quiet northern forest, where tall pine trees stood like gentle guardians, there rested a small wooden cabin. In summer, it blended into the green. But in winter, it became part of the snow. The roof carried a thick white blanket. Icicles hung from the edges like delicate glass chimes. Smoke rose slowly from the chimney, curling into the pale gray sky. The world around the cabin was silent. Not empty, just softened. Snow has a way of absorbing sound. Footsteps become whispers. Wind becomes a hush. Inside the cabin lived a woman who preferred winters over all other seasons. Not because they were cold, but because they were honest. Winter never pretended to be busy. It never rushed growth. It simply rested. Each morning before sunrise, she lit the fireplace. Not a roaring fire, not a blazing heat, just enough warmth to glow. She believed fire should comfort, not compete with the quiet. The cabin was simple. Wooden floors. A wool rug near the hearth. A kettle resting gently on the stove. A wide window facing the forest. Outside that window, snow fell in slow, steady patterns. No two flakes landed the same way. But none seemed concerned about it this particular evening. The forest felt especially still. Clouds hung low. The sky carried the soft blue tint that comes just before night. The woman wrapped herself in a thick knitted shawl and stepped onto the porch. Her boots pressed lightly into fresh snow. The forest stretched before her, endless rows of pine trees dusted in white. She listened. Far away, a branch released a small drift of snow. A quiet thump. Then stillness again. She did not check the time. There was no need. Winter evenings unfold slowly on their own. As darkness settled gently between the trees, a faint glow appeared deeper within the forest. Not sharp, not alarming, just soft. At first she thought it was moonlight catching ice. But the glow moved. Curious, she stepped carefully from the porch and followed the faint shimmer between the trees. The snow cushioned each step. No crunch. No echo. Just a soft compression and release. The glow grew clearer. In a small clearing stood something unusual, a circle of lanterns resting directly on the snow. They were not connected to wires. No footprints surrounded them. They simply glowed. Warm golden light against the cool blue forest. The woman approached slowly. The lanterns were arranged in a perfect circle, and in the center lay untouched snow, smooth and undisturbed. She felt no fear, only calm curiosity. As she stepped into the circle, the forest seemed to grow even quieter. The falling snow slowed. The wind paused. She knelt gently and placed her gloved hand against the snow in the center. It felt cool, steady, real. But something about the circle felt symbolic, as though it represented a boundary between noise and rest. The lanterns did not flicker. They glowed steadily, like breathing. In that moment, she realized something simple. The forest had created this space not to surprise her, but to remind her, winter is not emptiness, it is protection. The snow protects the roots of trees. The quiet protects tired thoughts. The darkness protects the light from burning too brightly. She sat inside the circle for a while, breathing slowly. Each exhale formed a small cloud in the cold air. Her thoughts, which sometimes wandered too far during long winters, felt grounded again. There was no urgency here. No unfinished lists. No expectations. Only soft light and falling snow. After some time, she stood. The lanterns dimmed slightly, as if satisfied. One by one, they faded into the snowy clearing until only moonlight remained. No wires. No trace. Just a quiet circle pressed gently into the snow. She walked back toward the cabin. Behind her, her footprints filled slowly with fresh snowfall, disappearing almost as soon as they formed. By the time she reached the porch, the clearing looked untouched again. Inside, the fire still glowed gently in the hearth. Not roaring, not fading, just steady. She poured hot water into a mug and sat by the window. Outside, the forest shimmered under moonlight. She did not need the lanterns anymore. The reminder remained. Rest is not laziness. Stillness is not loneliness. Quiet is not absence. The fire cracked softly. Snow continued its patient descent. And at the edge of the sleeping forest, the small wooden cabin stood warm and steady, where the fire never burned too bright, and the winter night held everything gently in its calm embrace. There is a valley hidden between mountains that rarely appear on maps. Not because it is difficult to find, but because it only reveals itself when someone has wandered long enough. The air there is neither warm nor cold, neither bright nor dark. It feels balanced. Soft golden mist rests over the grass in the early evening. A quiet river moves through the center, not rushing, not still, simply flowing at its own thoughtful pace. And if you look closely at the paths leading into the valley, you may notice something familiar. One path curves like a winding mountain road. Another carries fine desert sand between its stones. A third holds traces of snow that never fully melt. One smells faintly of ocean salt. Every place from before somehow leads here. Tonight, as twilight settled gently across the valley, a traveler arrived. Not hurried, not lost, just arriving. The traveler could not quite remember when the journey had begun. There had been mountains once, and a quiet ocean library. A desert observatory beneath patient stars. A snow-covered cabin at the forest's edge. Each place had offered something small but important. A slowing down. A remembering, a softening. Now the traveler stood at the edge of the valley and felt something different. Not curiosity, not searching, but recognition, as if this place had been waiting. The grass moved gently in a breeze that made no sound. Fireflies began to glow faintly along the riverbank. The sky above was painted in fading lavender and deepening blue. The traveler walked toward the center of the valley, where a single wooden bench rested beside the water. It was simple, unmarked, unclaimed. They sat down. For a long while, nothing happened. And that was the point. No mysterious lights, no guiding voices, no sudden revelations, just breathing. The river reflected the sky, and the sky slowly traded its colors for stars. The traveler watched as the first star appeared overhead. Then another. Then many. But unlike before, unlike the desert observatory, the stars did not feel distant. They felt close, as if the sky itself had lowered gently over the valley. The traveler realized something quiet but powerful. All the places visited before were not separate destinations. They were pieces. And this valley was where the pieces rested together. The mountains had taught steadiness. The ocean had taught understanding. The desert had taught patience. The snow had taught rest. And now, the valley offered integration. The wind shifted softly, carrying faint echoes. Not sounds exactly, more like impressions. The slow turning of library pages. The quiet adjustment of a telescope. The crackle of a gentle fire. The hum of a winding road beneath careful tires. All of it present. All of it calm. The traveler closed their eyes. For the first time, there was no need to move forward. No need to seek another path. The journey had not been about reaching somewhere new. It had been about becoming still enough to notice what was already there. The bench felt solid beneath them. The earth steady. The air kind. A soft glow began to rise from the river, not bright, not dramatic, just enough to illuminate the water's surface. In that glow, the travelers saw reflections, not of their face, but of moments, walking slowly through falling snow, looking up at endless stars, turning a page beneath the ocean, driving carefully along a mountain curve. Each memory no longer felt separate. They felt like chapters of the same quiet story. The valley did not ask the traveler to stay forever. It did not close its borders. It simply existed, as a reminder that all wandering eventually leads inward. The stars above seemed to pulse gently, like breathing. The traveler's own breath matched that rhythm. Slow in, slow out. Time loosened its grip. The river continued its steady motion, carrying no urgency with it. After a while, perhaps minutes, perhaps hours, the traveler felt something subtle shift. Not an ending, but a readiness. The kind of readiness that comes when nothing feels unfinished. They stood from the bench and looked once more across the valley. The mist had thickened slightly, glowing faintly beneath starlight. The paths remained open in every direction, but none felt necessary. The traveler understood now. Wherever they walked next, mountain, ocean, desert, forest, the valley would travel with them. Because it had never been a physical place. It had been a gathering of lessons, a meeting point of calm, a quiet center. As they stepped away from the river, the valley did not fade. It simply softened. Like a dream that does not disappear, only settles deeper into memory. High above, the stars continued their patient shining. And somewhere beyond movement and stillness alike, the journey gently prepared for its final chapter. Morning did not arrive all at once. It unfolded slowly. A pale silver glow stretched across the horizon, touching the edges of the valley with quiet warmth. The mist that had hovered above the river began to thin, rising like a slow exhale. The traveler stood at the edge of the grass, feeling neither eager nor reluctant. Just ready. The valley was still there, peaceful, open, balanced. But something had changed. It no longer felt like a destination. It felt like understanding. The bench beside the river was empty now, though it seemed to hold the shape of rest. The water continued its gentle movement, reflecting the growing light of dawn. There was no voice saying goodbye, no sign marking the end, only a subtle knowing. The journey outward had quietly become a journey inward. The traveler turned toward one of the paths. It did not matter which one. All of them now felt familiar. As the first step was taken, something unexpected happened. The valley did not disappear behind them. It did not shrink into the distance. Instead, it seemed to soften and fold inward, not into the land, but into the traveler's awareness. Like a page carefully closed, but never lost. With each step, the surroundings shifted gently. The grass gave way to stone. The river's murmur blended into distant wind. The scent of mist changed to crisp morning air. Soon, the traveler stood not in a hidden valley, but in their own quiet room. Sunlight filtered softly through a window. The world felt ordinary again. And yet, not the same. There were no mountains in the corner. No desert stretching beyond the walls. No snow resting against the door. No ocean beneath the floor. And still, the steadiness of the mountains remained. The patience of the desert lingered. The calm understanding of the ocean rested quietly within. The gentle warmth of the cabin's fire glowed somewhere deep and steady. The traveler sat at the edge of the bed and listened. The house made its small morning sounds. Distant birds greeted the light. Air moved softly through unseen spaces. Nothing magical, nothing dramatic, just real and peaceful. For the first time, there was no need to chase another landscape, because every landscape visited had been teaching the same quiet lesson. Calm is not found in distant places. It is remembered. The traveler stood and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was wide and pale blue. Clouds drifted lazily, carrying no urgency. A soft breeze moved through nearby trees, not demanding attention, only offering movement. Life would continue. There would be busy days, unexpected changes. Moments of noise, but something steady had been planted. A valley within, a place where all paths meet, where breath slows, where thoughts untangle, where nothing needs to prove itself. The traveler closed their eyes one last time. Behind the quiet darkness of their eyelids, faint impressions appeared. A winding mountain road beneath moonlight. Pages turning slowly in an ocean library. Stars stretching endlessly above a sleeping desert. Snow falling gently outside a warm cabin. A valley holding everything together without effort. All of it part of the same soft story. And then, even those images settled. Not fading away, just resting. Like light placed gently inside a lantern. Carried, always available. Morning continued to brighten. The day would begin soon. But there was no rush to meet it. Because the journey had never been about escaping the world. Only about learning how to move through it gently. And now, wherever the traveler walked, they carried the light home.